to honor Coach Richardson named the court. I think it's another thing that our administration, Chancellor Steinmetz, our board of trustees, and Hunter Yurchek have been really progressively thinking and doing a lot of positive things for us. And that was another one. Our kids, after understanding some of the history, and when I told them that Coach Richardson's last game as a coach was as a women's basketball coach, most people didn't even remember his days with the Tulsa shot, but our kids really embraced it and had a great day. So it then led to a great practice. So I hope that keeps going this week as we prepare to play Pitt State, who I think it just came out number 20 in the country in the preseason Division II polls. Check my number on that, but I think that's right. So really good test for us coming up on Thursday.
Questions?
Yeah.
It's his first one, y'all.
That's right.
Mike, what do you want to accomplish as far as seeing some players on the floor and what you want to do?
We all know that practice lights and game lights, although they turn on the same place, that you function differently under them. So I want to see from some of the newcomers and kids that are in new roles, can they do that when we've opened the doors up and let people come in and watch? Our practice has been going really well, but there's a translation factor that every kid has to go through. So I want to see that. We want to look at our big lineup together. We've been working in practice. That's new for all of us, playing a couple of bigs together. I want to see how that functions, and if we can function as fast as we want to, and still play that way with two bigs. And then we've kept it really simple. We want to be really good in transition offense and really good in transition defense.
When you look at your rosters and the analytics of that, like where are you right now with trying to put those lineups together, and what does that look like for you?
I'm really stymied. There's about 10 kids that could argue for starting, 10 kids that could argue to be the 4 or 5 to be the first off the bench or whatever. I think it's going to be a departure from the previous 6 years of how I would prefer to substitute. We may see a variety of starting lineups because the competition has been so close. The analytics point exactly toward that. We've also had a lot of little nagging injuries and flu, and somebody's out this day or out that day. So we haven't really had a chance, even though we've got a roster of 16 kids, to have everybody out there. So the practice analytics show that it's very, very close. It's been very competitive. And we may play more than 7 or 8 kids this year if that continues to be true once we get game time.
How's Jalen Mason progressing from her injury?
All she can really do is cardio stuff.
Hello. It's our Tuesday edition with On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio here on KDSJ 479. And real quick, want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, and office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion. It's located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey-based custom painting, and also to our sponsor, KDK's Chicken, and our newest sponsor, Holman's Handyman. I want to welcome them to the show, as well as there'll be a new sponsor with the Bulldog broadcast as well. But want to get in, you just heard a little bit of Coach Mike Neighbors, head women's basketball coach at the University of Arkansas, as they'll be taking on in an exhibition game, the Pitt State Gorillas, this Thursday in Bud Walton Arena. But I want to do something that we haven't done, but I'm talking about after yesterday's show, Demetrius and I felt real good about the response that you guys as the viewers and listeners have started to interact with us. So I'm going to tell you what, we open it up today. We want to talk to whomever and about whatever you want to talk to when it's regarding this Arkansas program. I mean, is it time for changes? If so, where at? Who? How many? We need to know all this stuff, and you can do that today. I mean, you can do it all day from 1 to 2 p.m. on OTH. You can call us at 479-601-7400. We want to hear from you today. I mean, let us know. I mean, because from the reaction that we got, man, I'm fired up, and I want to continue this conversation with our listeners. Now we want to hear from you. We've seen you. We want to talk with you a little bit, so talk with us. But real quick, I'm going to bring in my guy because he was real excited too. Demetrius Johnson, my producer, co-host. DJ, talk to me, man. Talk to me.
What's happening today, Pat?
Man, I'm all fired up about yesterday's conversation. I mean, I went through even last night and looked at some of the comments, and you guys had some real good, some real good talk, some real good discussion going on, don't you think, with some of the questions and responses, and just how the fan base and people we were having a good water cooler conversation.
Definitely. What I liked about it is how it really shows the interest from the fans. Arkansas always talks about how it doesn't have an NFL team and it doesn't have a pro team, and how the Razorbacks are the one thing that connects the entire state of Arkansas.
Right.
And I think that's so beautiful for everybody to be so connected with the program. And I can't fault the fans for the comments that they make, good or bad, because it really just shows. When people say the SEC, it just means more. In Arkansas, it means everything. These people live and bleed Razorback red, and it's crazy how the football team does kind of determines the economic status that Fayetteville goes through in that year. So when the football team is at an all-time high, business is at an all-time high,
right.
And it's just crazy the influence that football has on the state of Arkansas as a whole.
No, I just think, it really impacts the program as in general. I think just take it. Yeah, on Sunday, Coach Nolan Richardson gets his name put on Bud Walton Arena court. If Arkansas is having a really, really good season, if this team is 4-2, that place is at least the bottom bowl full. At least. I mean, and momentarily we'll have some audio from our availability with Coach Richardson talking about his being the recipient of getting his name put on the Bud Walton Arena court. To me, the greatest moment being in the media and, like I said, being an African American young man, having grown up and watched Coach Richardson's career. Every Sunday night, Channel 8, you're sitting there and you're ready for Tulsa and the polka dotted towel, the boots, and things of that nature. That's where I grew up, in my earliest connection with Coach Richardson. To be able to be there, and I talk, and we talk about it. To be able to be in an atmosphere, it's one thing to always see, the courts across the country, Pat Summit Court. I mean, I know those Tennessee fans had to have a special, and will always have a special feeling toward that. But to be able to be there in attendance, and as a media personality, to be so close and have the blessing that we've had, to say that from here on out, Demetrius, we can say we were there the day that Nolan Richardson Court became history. And for an African American man myself, I think Arkansas, and I was telling Demetrius, he's the only African American man in a Power 5 conference on a Power 5 court. I mean, that speaks volumes for, people like myself. It shows that it can be done, and I mean, I will forever be grateful for what Coach Richardson meant to me as a black African American man, and also watching what he did at the University of Arkansas as a coach.
Yeah, I think it's huge, man. I think it was beautiful in regards to, I had a chance to actually go to Nolan's ranch, and I talk about this any chance that I get, because he's an icon for the state of Arkansas and for the minority culture. Even when you think about the Hispanics and the way, he put on for El Paso and got the attention to El Paso. I think it was huge, and I think it was beautiful for Nolan to even enjoy it with his wife. I'm not sure if his wife was at the actual event or present at the actual ceremony, but just for her to be alive and them to experience that together and know that this is something that's long overdue, and for them to cherish this, at the end of the fight, it wasn't all in vain, and they got to really enjoy a special moment, because they gave a lot of their lives and time to the University of Arkansas that I think so many people don't understand the sacrifice that it goes in being a coach at a major school. And again, we just spoke about how much football influences the economy. Just think about the effect that Nolan Richardson had on the economy and the state, the presidency, it's crazy the influence that he really has, and sometimes people don't get the recognition that they deserve until they pass away. So I just thought it was so beautiful to really just get to witness a man getting his legacy, placed and etched in history. I'm not trying to move too fast, but I'm ready for the statue. So,
well, I'm telling you, we get ready to build a statue of causes. We're gonna let you hear a little bit of what Coach Richardson had to say. Old suits and boots, as I recall during his the glory days of Arkansas basketball. I think they're gonna get back to that, but he was suits and boots to me. We'll let you hear what Coach Richardson had to say, and then we're gonna open it up. Y'all want to talk? We want to hear what you got to say. Let's talk about it. You can get us here at 479-601-7400. That gets you in OTH. We'll be back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
Richardson Court.
Well, the days of climax, it started a while back. I think having that, or knowing the feeling of having a court named after you, you have that great inward feeling, something you never dreamed of. I didn't go into coaching and have things named after me, but I've been very fortunate and very blessed. And so, I've received so many awards, and I don't deserve any of them. I think my players and the coaching staff, and of course the fans, are the real winners. I enjoyed what I had to do because all I had to do was worry about winning. So it was a lot of fun thinking about when I go into my Hall of Fame room, I call it, and see all the things that I was able to accomplish, and to have the climax of when you think it's all over, then something else happens and you get another award. So this one is probably the final and the ultimate. I could see when they were telling me about it, I could just picture myself with Frank Rose and myself and Mr. Bud Walton. I remember going up there asking them for $1 million to help me get 1,000 seats into Barton. And he said, "No, we need a new place." Frank said, "That costs a lot of money." "Well, you got a place to build it?" I said, "Yes." And right then he said, "Well, go build it. We'll pay for it." So I knew then that basketball really has come alive and arrived. Because, I think Eddie had done a great job with Barnhill. But we had outgrown it. We moved into the Southeast Conference. We had a hell of a lot tougher schedule. And you needed a great place to play. And now that place that we needed so much bears my name.
Welcome back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you each and every day here from 1 to 2 p.m. here on KDSJ 479. And we said we want to talk. So, we already got a caller. And who are we talking with?
This is Simon from North Little Rock.
Well, what you got for me, my man?
Well, I just want to have a little conversation with you all as I've listened to numerous stations as they reflect every week on the I guess demise or the status of the football program, and I just wanted to get my little 2 cents in because I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm a Marcus Spears or somebody like that, but I think I'm pretty in tune with sports and college football as well as Arkansas Razorback football,
right. Being
that I was born and raised there and grew up and can go back as far as I can remember naming all the players. But, given the program and in its current status, of course, everybody will agree that it's not where it should be or we want it to be as
right.
fans and followers of it.
Good
but
point.
I just want to break down a couple of things that, are hot topics and kind of give you my viewpoint on it. One, I want to talk about the quarterback because that's the most highly talked about situation
Right.
In Arkansas and around the nation. The quarterback battle, as you could probably refer to it as, between Ben Hicks and Nick Starkel, I don't really think it should be or should be considered a battle per se.
Right.
I understand what they're trying to do, and I'm in the majority that wants to see a KJ Jefferson or a John Stevens Jones get out there and play because you think they can bring that RPO style or influence to the offense.
Right.
But as you reflect and you kind of look at it, if you want to be a realist, you kind of want to go back to the beginning of fall camp and leading into the season. You would think, as I'm pretty sure Morris and Joe Craddock really thought that what they could do was
Right.
they could probably bridge that gap between the freshman KJ Jefferson with two upperclassmen graduate transfers and move in where Jefferson isn't forced into plan.
Right.
Well, that plan hasn't come to fruition, obviously, and there's been a lot of struggles. My issue is, and I've listened to people such as Clint Sterner and others, just to their reflection on the debacle and how Morris has handled the quarterback situation.
Right.
And yes, I really believe that he could have handled it better than what he did because it's basically the same thing going back to Ty Story and the name slips me, the other quarterback.
Cole Kelly.
Cole Kelly.
And I'm telling you, side now we got to always throw in Connor Nolan. We got to throw him in there as well.
And Connor Nolan. Yes, you don't want to, as a team, as your quarterback, you want to have somebody established there. You want to have a proven leader that can take the reins in good and bad.
Right.
If you don't, what they say, if you have more than one, you don't have any.
Right.
And
Good
I
point.
think that's what the situation you're in. Each quarterback this year has been given ample opportunity to take the reins and secure that quarterback spot.
Right.
For whatever reason, they have not done it. This last game, they put in Ben Hicks, and I thought that was really a bad decision. And I'm gonna give you my reasons why. I don't want to take up too much.
No, but hey, this is open show. You let her rip.
But I want to give you my reasons why I don't think Ben Hicks is the quarterback, and he puts more restraints on the offense than what you would get from a Nick Starkel. One, if you're watching the games each and every Saturday, you want to have somebody that takes care of the ball. I fully agree with you.
Right.
And Ben Hicks does take care of the ball. But if anybody remembers an old NFL quarterback, and it's been a couple of game managers in the NFL, Todd, Trent Dilfer, those type.
Man,
those
he
are
might have
game
been the
managers.
king of game managers, Trent
Yeah.
Dilfer.
Yes, those are game managers, and you want the quarterback to protect the ball, but you don't get very much out of them.
Good point.
So if you're going to have a game manager, you have to have a stellar defense that can give you multiple possessions, and therefore, if you're not pushing the ball down the field, you don't have big explosive plays,
Right.
you have a chance to win. Ben Hicks is a game manager. He's not a person that's going to go out there and stretch the field. He's not going to make explosive plays. He's not going to spread the ball around. He's not going to do that. That's not his MO. Yes, he will, protect the ball. He won't turn it over, but you're not going to get very many explosive plays. And what you've seen this week in the Auburn game, much the same as what you've seen in the Portland State game and any other game that he started, is they crowd the box on him because they're not fearing him beating them over the top. So therefore, when they crowd the box, 8 men, in the box, that eliminates your running game.
Right.
If you go back to the games that he started, Rakeem Boyd and Devwah Whaley, they have struggled to get rushing yards because there's no running room.
Right.
He does not stretch. He does not stretch it. Yes, he protects the ball, and that's what you want him to do. But he's not going to. There's no fear in him. So therefore, they can crowd the box, and if he so happens to throw the ball over your head, hey, you'll live with that.
Right.
But it's not going to do that. Where you have Nick Starkel, which you have to be on high alert at all times because he can touch you in every aspect of the field.
Good point.
Now, granted, I do agree he has turned the ball over way too many times to be your starting quarterback. But what he gives you is that opportunity at any time to strike the band.
Right.
at any point and any time, and you have to. I don't care how many interceptions he throws, you still have to be aware that hey, he can beat you with his arm.
Correct.
Now he's not going to give you much in the RPO, and he's not very mobile, which you need. But he's going to give you those explosive plays and that opportunity to score if you get into a shootout.
Correct.
Because we all know that our defense isn't up to the standard where they can go win you a game. Yes, they can make a couple of plays, but they're not going to go out there and win you a game.
Right.
You got to have somebody that can be explosive, make plays for you, and you see it when he's in there. You get the amazing catches by Trey Knox and the plays by Mike Woods and Tyson Morris. You didn't see much of that last week because he cannot stretch the ball. Ben Hicks cannot stretch the ball to those playmakers.
Right.
I think both Trey Knox and Traylon Burks only had 2 catches. And we all agree those guys have to have multiple catches.
Right.
They have to be integral parts of the game along with Cheyenne O'Grady. But if you don't have somebody that can spread the ball around, you get a cloudy or a jumbled up box, and you don't get very much. You get a lot of 3 and outs. So if my thing about with Morris, and I'm sorry the rant and rave, but I've
let it out.
So many people talk about Ben Hicks he protects the ball and he this and that. Yes, he does protect the ball, but I think he only threw the ball over 15 yards 3 times.
Yeah.
That's not gonna get it.
Now, what my question to you, because we're about to go to break here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. My question to you is: you've heard a lot, and you get on social media and you hear. When is it enough if Chad doesn't get this thing turned around, and if there's any changes that should be made, where would you make those changes? If so, I mean, in your opinion, I mean, should there be some changes when this thing concludes?
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and bridge the gap of what I was just talking about and go into your question. I think, me personally, you play Alabama this week.
Yep.
You need to start Nick Stark. That's my opinion, and for the reasons that I gave previous.
Good point.
Then you go into the following week into Mississippi State. You're down to your last 4 games. At that point, it's time to start playing KJ Jefferson because you can still preserve his red shirt year. You can start working on the future, and you integrate that RPO game.
Right.
If I think Morris is the right guy for the job, there definitely needs to be some changes to that coaching staff. Reason being that it's a couple areas, and some of it's not by their fault,
right.
But it's
good point.
It's just given their abilities to per se coach them up, develop them. They're not in their careers. They're not where they need to be in order to be in a big time Power 5 program.
That's a good point.
There needs to be I think they need to go out and get them an established quarterback coach who can possibly double as an offensive coordinator. Then you need to go get you a big time offensive line coach that can bring in the big uglies and develop them. I'm not saying that Fry has done a bad job, but I don't think his development is going to be up to speed to where they need to get.
Right.
On the defensive side, I think they really need to evaluate those secondary coaches because I've watched week in and week out. We're supposed to be in press coverage, but you never get a hand on the receiver. So they're still able to go wherever they want to and dictate wherever route they want to do to.
Right.
We do not have a lockdown corner. McClellan and Buster Brown, they're good. They're adequate, but they're not shut down corners. Therefore, you cannot let a receiver go where he wants to.
Right.
That's what Auburn was doing to our younger receivers this week. They were being physical, and they were dictating where they wanted Traylon and Trey to go. You have to have somebody that's teaching that, like Saban does. If you've ever watched any of their tapes, they're getting a hand on you that first 5 yards, and they're guiding you where they want you to go.
Good point.
You have to have somebody that can teach that. I don't know why the D-back coaches aren't teaching that, or if the guys just aren't comfortable with doing it, but you have to go get somebody like that.
Right.
I think Chief can make it one more year, but after next year, he's got to go. That's just my opinion, just in a quick synopsis.
Well, sorry, man. Love having the call, man. Keep calling in and keep sharing your thoughts on all Razorback athletics. And, real quick, what's your take on the basketball team upcoming?
Well, I was also present at the ceremony this week, and I can say it was a great, memorable moment. Growing up in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Nolan, I was kind of younger at the time that he was coaching, but you realize he was great. But as the years have gone by, the last 25 years or 20 years or however long it's been since he's been gone, you realize that we had a gym and we may not ever have that again.
Right.
From somebody that's had a high winning percentage, Final Fours, number one recruiting classes. Arkansas was a national name, national brand
Right.
because of Nolan Richardson. It wasn't, Eddie Sutton, he had his part in it, but everybody knew, especially in the urban areas, you knew about Arkansas because of Nolan Richardson and what he was doing. So for him to finally be honored, which everybody believes it was way past due, man, it was very incredible. I really enjoyed it.
Right. Well, Si, keep calling in, man, and you have a blessed one, and thanks for taking time out here on OTH.
Y'all too, and I hope the listeners have a great day and the rest of the week as well.
All right. Well, Demetrius, I mean, hey, Si from North Little Rock had a lot to say, didn't he? A lot to say. I really, really appreciate that phone call. And I mean, that's what we're talking about today. Hit us up. Tell us what you think. I mean, it's all about your opinion. We'll agree to disagree, or we might agree, or whatever we got going on. But the phone line, you can reach us here at 479-601-7400. We'll get you in here to OTH to talk to myself and Demetrius. Ask us anything, make comments about anything, or just let's talk. I mean, we're all about it. Like I said, yesterday really, really fired us up, and now I'm getting Si from North Little Rock's call, and he had a lot to say, D. I mean, the young man was on point with all of his opinions. You made a statement that sounded like that guy you like, P. Feinbaum or somebody like that.
I just like the crowd interaction, man. It helps the show when people call in. We like to hear you all's opinion because no opinion is wrong, and we like to know how the fans feel. So I just love when callers call in and you can give their take.
Right. Well, we're going to step away, get a real quick break, and then we're going to talk more. If you want to call us, you can do so. Once again, that number is 479-601-7400. We'll take a quick one. We'll be back. Let's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
The outcome is really very disappointing.
Man, that stuff's so clear.
We had moments in the game that I'm really, really proud of our unit. We gave them some momentum early in the game. We didn't fit a speed tweak, and we were just so close. If we got one guy, my linebacker, that if he fits it correctly, and I don't know how many times we've repped that particular sweep in practice, but if we get it fit, it's a 4-yard, 2-yard, 3-yard game, but we did. So it's a long run, momentum. We scored a touchdown. After that, we came back, and for about 35, 40 minutes of the game, I think we played as well as we could. Then we get into a situation where we bust an adjustment and communicate, and it's another touchdown, uncontested. If we line up and we do what we're supposed to, and they beat you, they beat you. But we didn't give ourselves a chance on that play. They got some momentum after that, came right back on the field very quickly, and hit another touchdown. The outcome of that. So with that said, I'll be happy to start answering questions.
Raise your hand, get a mic here. Go ahead, Nick. I guess just with Tua out, just kind of what do you look for from Mac Jones and just the offense in general?
Well, I think we'll see, they're not going to completely change their scheme. They're going to, let him do what he does well. The thing is, there's not enough tape out there to know exactly what that is, but I'm sure, they've been, running the same plays in practice, and I think he can, obviously he's at Alabama, and he's the backup because he's a good player, and there's no question about that. So I don't know that they'll change a lot. They may lean on the run a little bit more. You never know. They got 3 or 4 great tailbacks, so we'll see. We got to be ready for it all. And there's no doubt about that. And I think even though they lost to a really good player, there's a quality guy right there ready to take his spot.
Chief, for many years that you've been in this league, Alabama had the game manager type quarterbacks, but now the last few years they've had really dynamic guys. What have you seen from, like, it's like a philosophy change almost. They're more dynamic offensively.
Well, maybe remember me saying this last year. Talent-wise, last year their offense was the best I've ever been on the field. They got great speed at wide receiver. They got great speed at tailback. They're very good up front, and they had, one of the better quarterbacks in the country. And so, why not use them? And they've made that decision to use them. And
Welcome back. It's our Tuesday edition of OTH here on KDSJ 479. And we, for those that just came back in with us, our viewers or listeners, we just had our first open line caller, Cy from North Little Rock. Man, Cy has some great stuff to talk about, some good points that Cy made throughout his conversation about the quarterback, about changes that need to be made. And I'm about to bring in my guy, Demetrius, because we're going to continue on with our discussion. But, Demetrius, in your humble opinion, does Arkansas have a chance in this? I mean, to make it even a 21-point game on Saturday, in your humble opinion, straight up, if you were a betting man, would you take the over or under of the spread? I think the spread's about 30, almost 30 points. Do they have a chance to get under the spread?
Arkansas scored 30?
Right.
Oh, no. No. Offensive line overmatched with the defensive line. I don't see enough grit in it. And I would be surprised if when the injury report comes out that one or two of those offensive linemen that played last week are not nicked or banged up. So
yeah, I know Colton Jackson. Coach Moore said yesterday in our availability with he and another offensive and defense coordinator that Colton was going to be reevaluated today, I believe, due to a back end, some tightness in his lower back. So, yep, you're about right. Man, it was just what does it take, or in your opinion, what do you think the fans will accept with this train wreck of a season? Because, I mean, let's just call it what it is.
I really want to pose something to you. I think when you really look at the season, and
when I say that real quick, I hate to interrupt you, but I don't mean to disrespect any of the players. That's far from my intent on that. I mean, I know who doesn't go into a season expecting more, but just I'm saying from a fan's perspective, you lose to teams like Ole Miss. You lose to San Jose State, which I think really more so when people say train wreck of the season, they really refer back to two particular ball games, Demetrius. San Jose State and Kentucky will forever be the two games that if people say a train wreck of a season, they're going to always go back to. Don't you think?
I think Arkansas still has time to redeem themselves. When you look at the schedule, you still have Mississippi State next week for homecoming. You have Western.
I'm gonna pick them to beat Mississippi State.
You have Western Kentucky still on your.
I'm gonna pick them in that game too.
You got Todd Story over there, and then lastly you have Missouri. I think those are three winnable games.
Well, Vandy can beat Missouri.
Exactly. That's why I'm getting at. Arkansas still has. They can what is that 3? So that'll make them 5 and 6.
Yeah. And see, realistically, when I picked this team, because I did drink the Kool-Aid and I picked them 7 and 5. I did, but when I go back, I always thought that they'd be 3 and 4 in the league, because I thought out of the 7 wins they would, run the table non-conference and then win, and then go 3 and 5 in the SEC is what my prediction, what I predicted. So I still have. I mean, we can still get to that. I mean, I don't think this team will go bowling this year. I mean, but who knows? I mean, anything is possible once you get momentum, Demetrius, and get on a run. I mean. It isn't out of the realm of possibility they could upset Alabama, but I wouldn't be a betting man. But, I mean, after watching what South Carolina was able to do versus Georgia, and I mean, this is a Georgia team that's won SEC East titles, played in the national championship game just 2 years ago. I mean, been into the playoff. So, I mean, anything is possible. But
I think that should be Arkansas expectations. I think when you look at Chad Morris and losing certain recruits, I think that's the only way to really gain some momentum going back out in that little period where they're going to have time to recruit before actual recruiting,
right?
The actual signing day. So I think it's crucial in Chad Morris to really protect his quote unquote reputation as a coach.
Right.
He has to go win a significant game, and I think Western Kentucky would be a win, but that's not a significant game. I think he has to win this Mississippi State game or this Missouri game to really give people hope, because you don't want to go into year 3 still not having won an SEC game. And you showed me the schedule from 2021, and I've been saying, I said this last year when he became the coach, because you've been preaching about third year and Traylon Burks coming in, and that's going to be their junior year. And I said, well, the thing about it is it's going to be even worse, because I kept saying that. I don't know if you remember last year. I kept saying his schedule only gets tougher, and he's adding guys like Notre Dame, Texas, and that's a big one. Whenever Arkansas plays Texas, that's a make or break game. That can either get you a raise,
then get you fired,
or that can get you late. And when I say late, I mean go home.
Yeah, because Arkansas, I guess with the with that rivalry of recruiting and being in recruiting rivalry, so many of those with those Texas kids,
Yeah, that's a huge game.
So a lot of questions got to be answered. I'm telling you,
and that's why I say it's going to be. He's putting a lot of pressure.
So what coach? I mean, which coaches would you?
I don't think there's a coach out there.
Because I think when you get to this point, I think in every coach's head coach particular, and you're sitting at what, 4 and 15?
15, 16.
19 games, I think you have to start setting some examples of some of your staff members. I mean, you're going to have to obviously make some changes.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, Craddock's going to have to go.
You hate for people to lose a job, but I mean, it's about production, and this is a production business. It's the SEC West, the toughest division in all of college football. I mean, these coaches are getting paid tremendous amounts of money, and if you're not producing, just like, I mean, in business, in normal business, you don't produce, you don't get promoted for not producing. Nobody gets an extension or gets a pay raise when they're not producing, especially at this type of Power 5 level.
And I think this is the same thing that led to Brett Bielema's downfall, not being able to make those hard decisions.
Hey, I'm telling you, when he lost Sam Pittman, that was his downfall.
It was, but for you to lose Sam Pittman and go get somebody worse, and then continue to do this and not just because you have a relationship with this guy, and not being able to cut this.
I do hold because there was Kurt Anderson tremendously responsible for the lack of offensive line play on this particular campus.
It's not because when
he had some pieces to work with. You have to realize he had Trey Tola and some guys that Sam left him. So he left. He had
not the fault though. That's your head coach. When you're the head coach,
and I think as a head coach, that is very true.
It shouldn't take your assistant coaches to be able to. They shouldn't be the only recruiters. Your best recruiter has to be the head coach, because that's the guy that has to go fill the deal, bro.
If you as a head coach or anyone on your particular staff, if you have 1 year to where you miss at a position or two, it will absolutely set you back multiple years, well beyond that class. I mean, I am a firm believer in that wholeheartedly, and just covering programs, and also we do recruiting as well. You cannot absolutely make any mistake. Dabo Swinney, that staff, they hit it. Nick Saban, year in and year out. Now you see Coach Orgeron down there at LSU being able to do it. We all know that Kirby Smart can recruit. All these programs, Lincoln Riley over at OU, he's continued to do it at a high level. Jimbo Fisher. I mean, you cannot make recruiting mistakes with the way college football is now.
And you know what? What stuck out to me about all those names you said, they're winning.
Absolutely.
Even when Edge Orgeron was, only losing to Alabama, and he lost to Troy. He just lost to Troy.
But you think about it. I remember when they didn't want Ed Orgeron. These people were ready to run this man out after the interim year and go get a Jimbo Fisher or Tom Herman. I mean, these were the big guys. And now when you look at it, Ed Orgeron was absolute fit. But Ed Orgeron, you have to be able to step outside of your comfort zone. I think being able to go get a young offensive coordinator from the New Orleans Saints, as he did, and get a very renowned defensive coordinator and turn the responsibilities over and cut out the family side. I think if you're going to be a head coach in college football, in the SEC in particular, the SEC West, you cannot make it a family thing as far as your emotions go. You got to go out and get someone, I believe, on your staff, get guys that are very familiar with the grind and the way that it's so savage-like. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean by having those dudes. We keep talking about those dudes. There's savages. There's those dudes over there in the SEC West. You got to go get coaches that can get those types of players. I think Chad has a few pieces. And also, too, you got to get. I think you have to change offense coordinators because at the end of the day, you got to have your players excited to play for you on that side of the football. I think the spark, in my opinion, could come from a John Stephen Jones or a KJ. I really will be absolutely flabbergasted if we don't see both of those young men next Saturday homecoming versus Mississippi State and for the duration of those last 4 games. I'll be highly shocked if I don't get to see number 13, KJ Jefferson, quite a bit coming up because I truly believe that this kid is the future of this program. I've watched his mannerisms during the ball games when we were able to travel at Ole Miss or just down on the sideline around his ball club and just constantly encouraging the kids, a real calm demeanor, always in the huddles when they call those timeouts. I mean, that's something that I look at, Demetrius, real big as far as being a leader. Are you engaged when you're really not engaged in the game plan? And what I see from KJ is constant courage. I follow the young man on social media. We follow one another. I just think this kid has it. And I think this is going to be the guy that will look back and be really appreciative for, but it's got to start next week. I wouldn't play him, Demetrius, against Alabama. Don't burn in red shirt year for a meaningless game. You're not going to win that game. You're going to get beat up offensive line-wise. And you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose KJ for at least 3 years, possibly 4, but at least 3. So I would wait. I would wait till next week.
See, I'm kind of in the middle because I felt like KJ should have played some games early in the year that could have rewrote the way we perceive Arkansas football right now. I feel like, especially after those first 2 games, what I saw from the quarterbacks wasn't enough. And I thought KJ should have played a little earlier. And I think the Mississippi State game, I'm not saying it's a bad game to throw him out, but how do you go from being uncomfortable to playing him at all to, okay, now I want to start him in his first SEC game? That kind of contradicts everything you've been saying to up until this point.
But would you start him in the game?
No, I would have started him. I would have started him in one of those earlier games that were cupcake games. Because when you look at the game, this guy has no reps in game lifetime experience with this offensive line. But now you're gonna set his expectations to go out and win his first SEC game when he's not taking a snap.
I think when you go in there, I think that's from a fan's perspective that he's expected to win the game, and I don't think that would be the message if you're Chad, if you're Joe Craddock, or anybody on that office. You don't have to go out and win the game because, I mean, note to every quarterback that's going to be the quarterback here for the future. As long as number 7 and 16 are on that field, you ain't got to win the game. You get the ball to those 2 guys. I'm telling you, these are 2 first-round NFL wide receivers and quarterbacks. Just be the guy that gets it to your playmakers. Make plays when you have to, and I think that's where KJ would be a perfect fit because he can balance out those 2 spectacular wide receivers. I think you should see Amante Spivey. I would put her after next weekend. I would go with Hudson Henry. Now, that's the one position I think should have played. Hudson should have played from day one because I have not seen anything that would support not playing based on what I've seen from Grayson Gunner and Chase Harrell. I just hadn't seen a backup, a really important
I can't even recall hearing the name CJ on announcements anytime this year, just to be honest. Because the last time I remember Chase was dropping a pass in one of those.
Well, you see a lot of drops. That's one thing you do. You see a lot of drops with Chase.
So I do. I agree. But that's why I say I don't know if Chad's looking at this like, okay, these are my core guys, and I want to save them as long as I can. But then again, that contradicts the whole theory because you just burnt a whole year with Trey Knox and Traylon Burks. So, like, that's what I mean by it really doesn't make sense.
But I think at those, well,
it doesn't.
I think what they didn't expect is for Nick Starkel to eventually wind up here and going through the transfer portal. I think initially when they recruited KJ, my theory, nobody's told me this, but I think they recruited KJ to possibly be the starter in year one, year two of their regime here at Arkansas, or possibly once they got Ben Hicks to maybe be the number 2 guy. And when Starkel came in, then I think they're just there went hence a lot of uncertainty, and they never really tried to figure it out. But I think what they did try to do is stay with like I said, being familiar with the offense. Nick being a mature guy, but had played in the SEC in the SEC West. I think all that played in, and he was a Texas guy that they recruited possibly, I believe, when they were at SMU. So I think all those things played in. But at the end of the day, after next week, you start getting KJ Jefferson ready. Because I'm looking at, you got 3 quarterbacks. 2 of them can help you. John Steven and Nick can help you next year. Ben can help you next year. Ben will be out of the program. I think you insert KJ and truly start to get film and make this a competition for the quarterback spot starting homecoming weekend. I think that's what you do. You start making it a competition and may the best man win, and you start the hot man. I would be shocked if KJ didn't finish that game next week. I don't think he'll start it, but I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't finish it. And I think once he hits the field, you will see a tremendous amount of energy that offensive staff has been talking about. I just think KJ Jefferson, and I mean, he just has that it factor when I watch his mannerisms.
Yeah, that's a sticky situation because you look over and you say, okay, if KJ is not going to start the whole game, why are you going to burn his? Again, it goes back and contradicts the whole theory.
I think after Alabama, they get those 4 games, so he still gets a red shirt. I think now you start building film to find out what KJ can and what he's really good at, and then I think you go back after. But
if you're going to do it like that,
the offseason and start formulating more of that offense around what he does, and I think then you really can expand on what Trey and Traylon and Mike Woods.
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for him to go out and even play 2 quarters of one game. That's not enough film. If you're gonna,
I think
but that's what I'm saying. If you're gonna play the kid,
I think we'll see him a large portion of next weekend's game. If they go with him next weekend in homecoming, I think they're gonna go with him for a large portion of that football game.
They're gonna have to because again, it doesn't make sense. That would be
because now you're down, and I agree with you 100%. Now you better win a conference game. It's about winning an SEC conference game before this season's over.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, hindsight says that you do play KJ a lot. I think you scrap the older guys.
You have to. I mean, even when you look at
after this weekend, truthfully, I think you start playing the younger quarterbacks. I think you play I think you put a Monte Spivey in there, and let Raheem and Devois still continue to carry the yeoman's load of work because they've earned that right. I mean, those 2 guys are your bell cows, and you leave it as such. But then you bring in a Monte because think about it. Here in about 4 or 5 more games, if Arkansas doesn't have the privilege of going bowling, you're going to have a running back position that you're going to have to fill. So it's best to get some people. You don't know where Chase Hayden, his situation will be. So he's been out a couple games. May he get in the transfer portal? You're not sure about that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not stating. So don't quote me if you heard it. Don't get on Twitter or something and say, well, we heard on the Hill, Pat said he was trying. No, I've not been told that. Put that on record. So I'm not saying he's leaving, but with that being said, you're still going to have to come up with a number 2 running back and a number 3 running back going into next season. So I think if you give a Monte Spivey after this Alabama game some game reps, you really start to be able to, kind of put KJ, Hudson Henry would be a guy that I would go ahead and throw out in the fray after the Alabama for the remainder of the last 4 games and start seeing what I have because, think about that, Demetrius. They brought in 4-star receivers at wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, and running back in your freshman class. So it's best to get film on your tight end, quarterback, and running back because you already know what you got with those 2 grown men at wide receiver as freshmen. So I think that would be my angle. I don't know if anyone else would do, but that would be the way I look at it. But we're going to wrap this thing up for today, as it's been a great show, great conversation. I want to thank our caller, Cy from North Little Rock. And I'm telling you, don't be afraid to call. I know there's a lot of people wanting to dial in with their comments. We are here for you. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. And Corey Beck's Custom Painting. If you need it residential, commercial, or any type, contact Corey Beck and you won't be disappointed. And lastly, KDK's Chicken, located at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith and Kathy and get you a plate of that good old love. And like they say, it's not your mama's. The best chicken and waffles in the South. I promise you. That's going to wrap it up from my buddy and my producer, Demetrius Johnson, and myself. To all our viewers, we'll be back tomorrow. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and let's get it.